last two videos that I've made have been plagued with technical malfunctions, so with the grace of God and the camera deities in hell, I would like to cheer myself up a little bit. So I have a little bit of a more special whiskey that I was actually saving for maybe a review a few months down the line, but I've decided to bring it forward because I'm in a bad mood. And I need cheering up. So, today we have a peaty whiskey from Islay. But you knew that already because you can fucking read. So we have Lagavulin 8, but not just any old Lagavulin 8. That hurt my wrist. Ow. We've got the 200th anniversary in a teensy tiny little bottle. A wee little dram drop fucking thing. Because I ain't dropping 60 quid on this, fuck that. I mean, it probably is quite nice. I've heard good things. But I am cheap like that. So this, obviously, was released to celebrate the 200th anniversary of Lagavulin. Now then, why did they choose an 8-year-old? Is it just because it's half the 16-year-old and therefore they can make as much money off of something half the age? Well, I mean, that definitely tickled their testicles, I'm sure, but that's not the core reason, or at least not the stated reason. The TLDR version, because I can't remember the fucker's name, is some bloke went to Lagavulin and he was like a writer. You know, he had like his little typewriter. He didn't have a typewriter. I think he was probably writing with a quill or something. And he went to Lagavulin and he was like, hey, give me some of that Lagavulin. And they were like, okay, here is some Lagavulin. And he was like, that's jolly good stuff. And he wrote about it being jolly good stuff. And the jolly good stuff that he wrote about was the Lagavulin 8-year-old, which they stopped producing, which is unusual, really. Particularly in these, I mean, it's, you know, it's not unusual. They brought it back because, I mean, you know, any excuse. But Lagavulin are quite unusual in that their core release for many years was a 16-year-old, which is a high age statement to be able to just readily get your hands on. If a distillery launched a new 16-year-old now, I'll tell you, well, let's put it this way. If Ardbeg released a new 16-year-old now, you'd fucking pay for it. I mean, you pay for pretty much any Ardbeg new releases. I mean, remember the Wee Beastie nonsense? I've still not gotten around to the Wee Beastie yet. It was on sale not so long ago, but I didn't buy a bottle. I exercised restraint, because I've got a lot to get through anyway. I should get this review done before the camera explodes or something, so I'm going to pop this into a glass. I'm going to pour a relatively large measure. Normally I just put like a little trickle in. There's probably going to be people down in the comments now saying, oh, you can't judge a whiskey off a trickle. Nobody made you click on this video. Fuck off. There we go, that's the Carl Smallwood School of Diplomacy for anyone who watches Fact Fiend. So I'm going to give that maybe about 30 seconds. What's my history with Lagavulin? Well, I don't have much personal history with them, but I've drank the 16-year-old, and I've quite liked it. It's a very solid dram. I like my smoky whiskies. I think we've covered this on the channel before, and if you're new here, I like smoky whiskies, and that means you should subscribe. What am I like? Professional mode, John. File not found. Okay, we'll just crack on then. So, what is prepubescent Lagavulin like? Yeah, that's how they should have marketed it. I bet that would have sold some bottles. I'm never going to work in marketing. For the best. Oh, Jesus. Whew. Oh, yeah, did I... Oh, you can stay. It's... Sorry, I'm getting a semi. It's 48% distillery bottling. I don't have details on chill filtration and colouring because I forgot to look them up, and there's not that information on here. So I don't know for certain, and I'm not going to say one way or the other because I don't want to ruin things. So I keep a score sheet, and it's linked down below. It's just next to my Patreon link. If you accidentally click the wrong one, then oops. But seriously, the spreadsheet's down below, and I'll have filled in whether it's coloured and chill filtered, because I use that as part of my marking scheme, because And I've had a couple of people say, oh, why do you include that? Because whisky anoraks and other colours on the virginity spectrum go on a lot about, actually most whisky people are happily married with like 27 kids. On the wheel of whisky anoraks, a lot of us bang on about natural colour, chill filtering. What ABV is it? So my counter rebuttal, that's cancelled itself out. You've double reversed the polarity there. You've confused the polarity. My rebuttal to that is, if it doesn't matter, why the fuck bother talking about it in the first place? So therefore, I folded it in as part of my marks. So you can have top marks across the board, but you can't get all the marks if you don't do those extra little bits and pieces. It's extra credit. There we go. Also, it's my fucking life. So shut up. There's a lot of aggression today. It's interesting. That knackered old washing machine is back, but if you don't know what I'm on about, Ardbeg 10, linky. Yeah, it's got kind of like a knackered rubber. But it's kind of like if you broke a washing machine that was already on its last legs by pouring gallons of peanut butter into the drum and then switching it on and listening to the motors scream in horror at what you have done to it. I'm sorry, for some reason that's quite an amusing image. Because why would you do that to a washing machine? What has a washing machine done? Maybe it was a really bad washing machine. We had a washing machine once that caught fire. That was a weird day. To be fair, this is how, like, you know, on our knees, not well off at all we were at one stage. We rented washing machines. We rented like electronic appliances because that was a thing you could do in our neck of the woods. Because I think I read in The Guardian, I know how far I have fallen from the tree, there was an article about Stockport, and I think it was trying to like convince people to move there and buy a house. And if I remember rightly, the opening sentence, the opening salvo was, despite breathtaking poverty in the region, this could be an excellent investment opportunity, or something along those lines. And I just remember reading that, I was like, savage, but where's the lie? Where was I going with that? Yeah, so one of these rented washing machines, we had like a Hot Point from the 80s at one point, and there were those ones where you had to like turn them. People are not going to know what I'm on about, because washing machine technology has weirdly changed quite a lot. I can't believe I'm talking about this. Time was, in the 80s and the 90s, you had washing machines and they were just boxes with a drum in them. They weren't, you know, attractive things to look at. Paradoxically, you did not hide them behind a cupboard in those days, which you do now, despite the fact they look a lot better. It's weird how things have changed. And they had like a brown strip on them, or sometimes they were white, or sometimes if you were lucky, they were hearing aid beige. Blimey. But the brown one was the one we had, and let me tell you, it is like if you are bleeding from your rectum and you've had your first shit of the day. It's that kind of a dark brown. It's not a good brown, you know? I don't know why anyone would want that kind of a brown in their kitchen, but we had it. My mother went to turn one of these on. It was one of these ones where you turn them and you had to pull the dial out in order to switch it on. Strange system. And what she ended up doing was she was having a bad day one day and she ripped it clean out of the machine and went stumbling backwards into a cupboard. And she comes into the living room being like, look what I've bloody done now, and there's just a piece of the washing machine in her hand. And it was amusing. I don't really know why I told you that story. Peanuts and rubber. There we go. Blimey. We're only on the first... But, do you know, I'm going to break now to make sure this hasn't fucking switched itself off. Holy shit, it's still recording. The pentangle is doing its job. It's reminding me quite a bit of like a toffee crisp bar. It's like chocolate, rice, caramel, diabetes. It's a lovely, rich, dank, saline, peaty funk. It's so maritime. It's like sucking off a pirate. It's really salty and just missing a leg, I would imagine. Quite chocolatey. I've never filleted a pirate. What are you on about? I'm gonna taste this now. It tastes kind of like when a pirate's ready to come. Angry motherfucker. It's quite a punchy, brutal little bastard. It's really salty. There's a sweet element as well. I'm not going to say salted caramel because that's one of my go-tos and it's not quite right. It's more like if you got some salted popcorn and you fucked up and accidentally put like caramel sauce on it as well. It's got just like this weird, slightly clashing, salty sweet sort of a thing. It's quite aggressive towards the finish. It's got a fair bit of heat to it. There's lots of rich, unctuous notes to it. The salinity just keeps building. The peat is wonderful. Rich, all-encompassing smoke. But it's not overwhelming. It's not too aggressive. It's more like cozying up by a fireplace. You occasionally get those like little wafts of like the burning embers. The burning embers? Embers are what? Embers are literally burning things, but like burning wood. Like when your pirate boyfriend says it's not working, you set fire to his peg leg. Doubling down on the peanuts. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to stick some water in because I feel it's holding back. I think it's not reached its full potential. The nose is broadly identical, if I'm completely honest. Most of the nosing notes from before I added water apply here as well. And what's interesting really is the method of attack for all of those notes has not changed. It's like nothing. It's like I've not done anything to it. So I'm not going to bore you by repeating what I've said, because I would literally just be repeating what I've said, which is a first. So we get to break to commercials, or alternatively, I can just drink it. That's also an option. Flavour again is similar, but there are two subtle changes. There's an introduction of spice to this, almost like a Bombay spice mix, or a curry powder kind of a mix. There's a richness to it, something of butter. Again, I know I keep going for the dairy components at the minute. Maybe it's just I'm craving dairy, I don't know, but do you know what? Cancel the butter. I'm going to change it to waxy. I'm going to modify that to waxy. I'm happier with waxy. And do you know what? It's fine to correct yourself every once in a while. It's good to show that you've made mistakes and you've learned from. Wouldn't it be a lovely world if our politicians stood up and said, I have made a mistake. I freely accept that. And then we could tear them to shreds with a clean conscience. And I mean literally, like rip them limb from limb in the streets. Nut components coming through. There's like a walnut bitterness in there as well. I'm sort of testing for fruit components not really coming through. I'm not detecting anything in the way of vanilla or sort of more confectionery led. So actually a lot of like that initial sort of like chocolatey flavour has gone away. The smoke is still present. It's still got this room filling but strangely quiet smoke about it. It's so difficult to describe. Because normally you've either got a whisper of smoke and it's like, hey, I'm smoke, and it goes away. Or you've got, oi, I'm smoke, and it punches you to the floor. This is like a very well-spoken Hell's Angel. It's like, you know it's in the room, but it's just sitting there saying please and thank you and reading Dickens, and you're like, well, this is new, you know? Maybe you don't. That's a very specific situation. My last sip, I'm getting a little bit of like an orange oil kind of a thing as well. There's like a tiny bit sweet and citrus to it, but only just. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add a bit more water, because I'm not sure I added enough, because the changes are so subtle. Normally you get something a little more substantial. It might just be that it doesn't make a difference. It will eventually, but you know, is it? It's fine, it's fine, it's fine. You fucked it. We shall see. Do you know what? There is a bit of a mist in the glass. So it's possible this isn't chill filtered. Either that, or I really need to get my eyes checked. The smoke has started to get a bit bad-tempered. It's put the Dickens down and it's gone, what did you fucking say to me? It's like if you tried to set fire to seaweed, it's like there's this slightly acrid, burning salt with a strange sweet element to it as well. Kind of like that shitty, cheap pancake syrup that pretends it's maple syrup. And not a whole lot else. It's changed, but it's now... I don't want to say one-dimensional, because it's not. But there's almost less coming through, if that makes sense. Maybe it doesn't make sense. I'm slightly struggling with this one. I'm struggling to put into words what it's doing. Yeah. Cola bottles. I had to go back in. I was like, nah, that can't be right. But yeah, a little bit. Like, very subtle, but... Yeah, it's there. It's there. Anyone ever had smoked butter? You've not? Where have you been? It's amazing. Right, okay. Every once in a while I go down to a farmer's market because I'm a class traitor. Where's the fucking lie? And amongst the weird and wonderful things you can get, like vegan omelettes, and I'm not quite sure how that works, but every now and then, I think it's Caithness Smokehouse pop down, and they smoke just about anything. I should reword that, but I'm not going to. So you can draw a little cartoon of them smoking anything, I suppose. I mean, you know, smoking a lamppost. But they will smoke butter. And for a while, I've wanted to try fat washing something with smoked butter, because I would imagine, I mean, it'd be a unique experience, if nothing else. And I've got some oat vodka over there. I've done a review of that in the past. If you're ever in the market for a vodka, if you're sick of vodka and you're like, right, I've done all the vodkas, try that stuff. It's called Brocken. It's genuinely very good stuff. Bought that out of my own money. Once upon a time, a rep came up to me. I'll come back to the whiskey in a second. Once upon a time, a rep came up to me and they were trying to sell me gin. And I was like, well, we don't need any gin. They were like, well, do you want to try some vodka as well? I was like, we don't need any vodka. I tried some anyway, and I was like, that's really good. And ever since then, whenever somebody said, oh, I could do with getting a vodka, like a Grey Goose or something, I'm like, I've got your back. I've got something you'll quite like. And I recommend them that. It's cracking stuff. I'm trying to get the word out because I really like the stuff and I don't want it to go away. I want it to always be there. And it's so fucking niche. I just want more people to know about it so they start buying it. Because, yeah, anyway, I'll bow that. Oh God, I'm sorry. Sorry about that. That will not have been good, will it? And another one for good oh shit, that's falling down now. Oh God. Can you tell I've had 3 whiskies on the trot? I'll have the trots if I keep this up. Right. Final notes, because I've polished that off now. It is really rich and buttery and smoky. And there is a little bit of vanilla coming out. There's a little bit of like pine needles in there coming out. There's something a little bit bitter. There's something a little bit acrid. There's plenty of salt. Chocolate was never seen again. Long rest chocolate. It's very comforting. It does not deliver too many individual notes. What it does instead is it delivers 2 or 3 with optional changes at the intermission, and it does them really well. And you're either going to be into that or you're not. But they're my thoughts on that one. That was the Lagavulin 8 200th edition. And you might be sitting there thinking, well, what was the point of that? You can't get your hands on it anymore. You can still get your hands on it. It's not readily available, although I think the Whisky Exchange might still have some. I should get some affiliate links at some point, shouldn't I? That would be a good idea. When I was buying all the stuff for using the Patreon cash that I got, I used an affiliate link for that because it doesn't cost me anything extra, but they get a bit extra. So I thought, well, do you know what? Really get my money's worth out of this lot by, you know, giving on the other side, essentially. So they hopefully will have gotten a nice little chunk of change at the end of that. Yeah, that's delightful. really big into that. My main question that I've been asking myself is, does it deliver enough that's different from the standard 16-year-old? And I'm kind of struggling to say yes. Because the 16-year-old does so many things right. And it does so many things that are frankly quite similar to this. Now, the 16-year-old is a lower ABV. But even with the higher ABV, I'm not 100% certain how it benefited from it. Which is unusual. Because normally you're able to see more clear cut with these whiskies, you know, when they have a higher presentation, you're able to go, oh yeah, no, that was worth it. Now, it might be because we have a 43% spirit that's aged 16 years versus a much younger spirit at a higher strength. And the two differences sort of cancel each other out. The price points are virtually identical as well. So, is it one for Lagavulin fans to try? Yeah, absolutely. Totally. Are you going to notice too many differences? I couldn't. But that doesn't mean to say that you won't. If you're a regular Lagavulin 16 drinker, you'll probably think I'm an idiot. Because you'll be like, oh, it's totally different. I'm not a regular Lagavulin drinker. I dip in and out of lots of things. And that is where sort of the flaw in how I do things comes in. A lot of reviewers would not openly say, oh, you know what, there's ways that I operate that have flaws. But nobody's perfect. Nobody can be perfect. And everyone should accept their flaws and move forward. And hold hands together. And aim towards a more peaceful and meretricious... I've been watching a lot of Star Trek. I'm sorry for the crap. But I'm kind of right. I'm going to wrap this now. Thumb this video if you like world peace. Yeah, fuck it, why not? Subscribe to the channel if you want to see some more shenanigans. There's some links down below to various bits and pieces, and I'd be appreciative if you check those out. There's like Instagram and stuff like that, so you know, it's not all just begging and pleading. Although, you know, if you're feeling charitable, or, you know, you're just drunk, then yeah, sure, go click on that. And I shall see you next time, where I'll be drinking something else.